Okay, so apparently there was some news about the Warner Brothers Netflix deal. Let me take. Oh my God! Hey everybody, Colton here. So, look, it's not really news at this point anymore. We did a stream on Screen Crush talking about it, but I have more thoughts. I'm just going to kind of word vomit here for a little bit. Netflix is out. Paramount, Skydance, they're buying Warner Brothers. Now, let me clarify. Paramount, Skydance, they do not own Warner Brothers right now. They will, if everything goes to plan, in probably 7 to 14-ish months. Now, we'll talk about in a second if I think that's even going to happen. But let me say, there's a saying around here, always trust the Colton. And when it comes to Doomsday and Marvel theories and stuff and Star Wars, yes, you always trust the Colton. But apparently, when it comes to this kind of shit, do not trust the Colton because I was dead wrong. I thought that this deal was done. Warner Brothers seemed completely disinterested in Paramount purchasing them. They accepted Netflix's deal. Paramount threw a fit, threatened to sue them. There was trash talking going on. They had the Netflix people to the lot giving tours. There were websites talking about the merging of these two studios, and it just seemed done. It was over. And I said, David Ellison, my friend, not my friend, dude, you're embarrassing yourself. Why don't you just go do something with what you have? You have one of the greatest movie studios ever, Paramount. Build that thing back. Release some awesome movies with what you have. Stop focusing on buy. Oh, you're like in sync. Is that the boy band in sync that sings bye? Yeah. Bye. Yeah, you sound like Justin Timberlake, fucker. You just buy. Instead of working with what you have, you buy Paramount and then you don't do anything with it. You just sit on your fucking hands for like the better part of a year now. You've had one of the weakest movie release rollouts. This year isn't looking any better. My guy, come on. And I was talking so much shit saying, offer more money or shut up. That's what he did. He offered more money. So now I guess I'll shut up. Not really. But he offered more money. Netflix said, we're not getting in this pissing contest war with you. And here's the thing. Netflix was willing to buy it for the right price. Paramount is willing to buy it for more than the right price. They're overpaying for it. But maybe they think that them winning this bidding war is worth it for them to overpay. I don't know. I have some notes written down here. The main thing we're going to talk about is how does this affect James Gunn and the DCU? That's what you guys want to know, right? That's what I want to know. Let me run through a few things and then we'll get to that. Let me say why this is awful, separate from politics. You guys have your own politics. I have my own politics. Is it troublesome that it looks like a certain individual who lives at the White House is going to get to boss around how a news organization runs? Yes. Is it troublesome that they want to put certain narratives into narrative fiction to push certain things and control the way audiences view certain issues, kind of like a big old think tank to, put into campaign slogans and whatnot? Yes. Is it concerning that there's a lot of money coming from a foreign government, the Saudi Arabian government, who thinks it's cool to behead American journalists, and then they want to try to join the Western world and have their golf tournaments and their movies and their this and their that? Yeah, fuck you guys. That's all concerning. But here's why it's awful outside of all of that. Because look, I think David Ellison, I don't like his dad, Larry. David, I mean, he seems like a big movie fan. He's never wanted for anything in his life. So, I mean, you can't be that wealthy and be a normal person. So, and he probably has some daddy issues, want to impress dad, don't we all? Um, but I don't think he's particularly like a big, like, raging right winger, or not really a big raging left winger either. I think he's grown up around giving people money to get what he wants, and he's not used to being told no. And like, I mean, he donated to the Biden Harris campaign. So I'm talking way more politics than I should be, because that's not what you guys are here for. I think it's awful separate from politics because, one, we're going to see a lot more jobs lost than we would have otherwise if Netflix had purchased it, because Netflix is not a traditional movie studio. They were going to keep Warner Brothers fully intact as a separate entity under the Netflix Corporation banner, but we weren't going to see any redundancies because here's the Netflix Corporation and here's the Netflix streamer. Here's the company and here's the Netflix, like the actual like business of Netflix. Netflix, the corporation, runs the Netflix streaming service, and they were going to run Warner Brothers, the studio, as a separate thing. Paramount is going to combine it and do away with a lot of jobs because there's going to be a lot of redundancies. And the dumbass thing I'm hearing is that, one, yes, they should combine Paramount Plus with HBO Max, 100%. But it should be HBO Max that takes in Paramount Plus, not the other way around. And that's what they're doing. They're doing it the other way around. They are saying that Paramount Plus will absorb HBO Max. How does that make any sense? Paramount Plus is not a good streaming service. They have some good stuff on there, but David ran off the dude who made all the good stuff for Paramount Plus, Taylor Sheridan, because he was pushing Taylor Sheridan, who already makes right-wing coded stuff, to do a really on-the-nose political right-wing show that Taylor Sheridan didn't want to make. They were pushing him to do a show that he didn't want to do because daddy and other daddy at the White House probably told him to, and they ran off their single greatest creative that they have at Paramount Plus, whose stuff already appealed to middle America and people who would categorize themselves as conservative. It was already appealing to them, but no, that wasn't good enough. The kid doesn't know what he's doing, and I'm calling him a kid. He's older than me, I think. Better be. How old is David Ellison?
David Ellison is 43 years old.
He's older than me. Good. Let's talk about James Gunn. Don't need my notes for that. I am not a person who has some hate boner for Zack Snyder. I think Zack Snyder is a talented filmmaker. He seems like an all-around decent guy. I don't like that he's into Ayn Rand. I think that's kind of weird. But he seems like a fine guy. I watched his interview recently with, was it the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast? I think so. Anyway, he was very nice about James Gunn. James Gunn's always very nice about Zack Snyder. He said how James Gunn's Superman was great, and it was a good interview. Some people think that this means that Zack Snyder is going to be back, though, and doing the DCEU, and that the DCU is done. And I've always been someone who says, under no circumstances will that ever happen. Well, now I'm a little scared because I've said that about a lot of things, and they usually don't happen. But this one did. Paramount winning Warner Brothers over Netflix has pretty much happened. So here's a scenario where I could see, I do not think that David Ellison is going to fire James Gunn. They've even said they are keeping James Gunn. But I think that if this deal goes through, everything is going to fall apart. I think DeLuca and Abdi, I believe I'm saying their names right, are they're over, like Warner Brothers. They're gone. I think they're both gone. Not because they're fired, but because I think they're just gonna maybe go work for Netflix or go work for a different studio or take a job somewhere else. I don't think they're gonna stick around. I think there's going to be a mass exodus of people quitting because they don't like this deal, and I'm worried that James Gunn is going to be one of them. Probably because of some politics. And if James Gunn gets a whiff of them not being cool to him, now, if David Zaslav stays on, he might be able to keep that from happening. If Gunn goes in there and says, I'm really committed to making my DCU, but there's a few things that I need to know, like in writing, that you're going to leave me alone and let me do it, then maybe he won't leave. But I am scared that Gunn just might leave. He might take the next year to try to finish up what he really wants to do, finish like his Superman trilogy. He's already said things like he doesn't know that he's longed for this job because it's just so much. Being a full-time filmmaker and a full-time studio head, it's unheard of, and he is doing it. Here's the thing. I kind of started to talk about Zack Snyder. Whether you like the Snyder DCEU films or not, I liked Man of Steel. I hated Batman v Superman. Justice League was awful. I don't really like Snyder's version either, but that's irrelevant. Here's the facts. Batman v Superman did like 800 million, right? That's okay. You would have expected it to do $1 billion, especially in the same year that Captain America Civil War came out and made, what did it make? What did Captain America Civil War make at the box office?
Here's Captain America Civil War.
Not what I asked. What did it make at the box office?
Sorry, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, I'm
Please
sure.
try again.
All right. I think it made well over $1 billion, right? Now you could say, okay, well, it was part of a major Marvel Cinematic Universe that was firing on all cylinders. Sure, but this was Batman v Superman, the two biggest superhero IPs ever. Okay, so Civil War made $1.5 billion worldwide. I won't harp too much on Batman v Superman. It was part of a new era of DC, and Man of Steel was kind of controversial, and that was its lead-in. So no, maybe it's silly of me to say, oh, well, it should have made the same or more than Captain America Civil War in a time where the MCU was really firing on all cylinders. So I'll leave Batman v Superman alone. But I won't leave it alone in terms of what it did for Justice League. If Batman v Superman was loved, Justice League would have made more than Batman v Superman. And that didn't happen. And people are going to say, oh, well, it's because it sucked. Because they kicked out Snyder. Fine. But it made like 600 something million. That's pretty much the general audience and people saying, we're not interested. We're just not that into you. We didn't like Batman v Superman. We didn't like Justice League. Now, did some people? Yes. But the DCEU had a stench on it. And it wasn't just Zack Snyder. That stench continued. The only successes they really had were like Aquaman and the first Wonder Woman. That's about it. Okay? The DCEU was a failure. And James Gunn was able to breathe life back into the DCU. So, will they run him off? I'm afraid they might. I'm genuinely afraid they might. I don't think they'll fire him, but I could see Gunn saying, this isn't working, I want to go. And that scares me, and I think it could be likely. And if that happens, what do they do? What do you do in that scenario if that happens? Do you try to keep running it without James Gunn? Here's the thing about James Gunn. There's something about him that once he gets canned, people don't want to work with the studio anymore. When Disney canned him, Marvel canned him, got a lot of pissed off actors. And eventually they hired him back. If Gunn leaves, I think you might lose your Superman. You might lose your new Batman, lose your everybody. They might just all walk. Lose Momoa as Lobo. It could be nasty. And that's why Gunn has some negotiating weight behind them. He has some stuff to bargain with. So I'm hopeful that maybe he can work something out and say, hey, I'll stay until this year, like give a year, but then I'm going to go. But while I'm here, just can I finish things up kind of how I want to finish them? Maybe that happens. But if he leaves, how do you continue without him? I don't know that you can continue without him. And what do they do in that scenario? Do they attempt to continue without him just by doing some recasts? Do they bring back the Snyderverse? I've always said they will not bring back the Snyderverse in the sense of, oh, we own it now. We own DC now. We're firing James Gunn. We're bringing back Zack Snyder to do the Snyderverse, even though that would be the dumbest thing we could possibly do because the audience told us with their money that they weren't interested in this failing, dying universe. But we're going to fire the new guy who breathed fresh life into this franchise and bring in the other guy and start that back up. That was never going to happen. It is never going to happen. But if your new guy walks, if James Gunn walks, where do you pivot? You try to market on, we're bringing back the Snyderverse. Do I hope that happens? God, no. No, I don't. I want the DCU to continue because I really like where they're going with it. And I want to see that. But when do I ever get what I want? Just kidding. I have a good life. I hope you all do as well. All right. Is that enough out of me? I'll let you go. Let me know. What do you guys think? Down in the comments below. Love you all. See you soon.